We had that whole little speech, right? With Emma and Morgan flipping back and forth, fight with both barrels and trust the opposition to do the same. Winner takes all. And now it is 12:59 p.m. July 1st, 2086 at the Gatesfield Memorial Hospital. And we're picking back up with Of the Devil, Episode 1. Continuing. Hi, VOD watchers. Hi, livestream watchers. Hi, third category of watcher. Like, I don't know, you're watching in the year, like, 2079 on, like, Internet Archive 3.0. Hi. You should email me if I'm still alive or something. Tell me you like the video, or if you hate it, and then I'll cry. Thank you, you're a lifesaver. And the next time that Bridezilla texts you, just turn your phone off. Chatty guy must have been due to go on break. When he tried and failed to find the witness's medical record, his datapad had the name blacked out. But I did see that they have Caduceus Executive 3, more expensive than David's, which means they most likely... How did you do that? You need to hold the button to get the doors to close faster. Mashing does nothing. That is not what I meant. There were many others who arrived before us. How did you get us down here so quickly? Well, I didn't do anything. It was that nurse who escorted us. Yes, but you managed to get a stranger like him to help you with so few words, so little information. I don't think you even gave him your name. Haven't you heard of the golden rule? Of course I have. Treat others how you would want to be treated. Wrong. Treat others how they would want to be treated. He wanted someone that he could vent to. He wanted someone to pay attention to him, and he wanted to feel appreciated, which meant he'd be eager to help given the chance. Even just reading someone's mood is quite difficult. How can you know how another person wants to be treated? There are no mind readers. No one can ever know anything about what anyone's thinking. Maybe not even themselves. Doesn't matter if they're your parent, your twin, your lover. It's always a gamble. That is not a very comforting sentiment. Well, I think it's fun. Only because you're good at it. How did you get good at it? Same as anything. Observation and practice. You must have been observing and practicing for a very long time then. Welcome back to Of the Devil. Did I already say that? I might have already said it. We're continuing episode 1. 7TV died. No, it seems to be working for me. V, I don't know. I'm gonna open the one that says Morgue on it. Oh my god, who is this? She looks amazing. Oh hey, come on in, don't stand out there in the cold. Wouldn't be accurate. Sorry about the chillin' here, but I run a little hot. And you can see my roommates never complain. Yumi Sato, medical examiner. Yumi, I love you, and I think, we should kiss about it. Dr. Sato, just the lady I wanted to see. Oh, I didn't expect that I'd get to. The fact that they've assigned a medical examiner and not some ad or junior means. Oh, you can just call me Yumi, and you're... Morgan, I represent the deceased. The deceased. Oh, the deceased. Asher D. Wait, really? That's, weird. I thought this time slot was scheduled for a group of noble PR people who... I know. Weird, right? Well, what the hell do I know? I was getting tired of hosting Megs anyway. Lots of women here? True. I gotta finish typing up this report before we talk shop. But in the meantime, feel free to make yourself at home. Oh, I love being at home. In the morgue. What's this? The hospital's getting renamed? No, I guess it's some other hospital that got snapped up. Hospital renamed to thank Ikaria family. Ribbon cutting ceremony. Renamed the the Plotter Memorial Hospital was formerly renamed the Northeastern Ikaria Medical Complex. Recognition of generous donations. Okay. They paid for renovations, the orchestra hall, retrofitting of what used to be known as the Scout Arena. Oh, so this family is like putting their name all over town. Back before the 50s, they had a fearsome reputation for their cutthroat business practices. Ooh. Organized crime. Now I'm interested. Renogen Medical, over 25 years ago, in its subsequent sale, the Icaria have moved out of the business world and into the upper echelons of society. That are mockingly referred to as the neo-ability. Ha 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 ha. That's like newer than new money, huh? The red decade. So some of y'all might be like, why is she reading all this? It's because this stuff has these little like articles and things have become important before. So it's good to check them out. Good to get that info. It's hard to print out the rest of your article, character by character. It's tough work, but we'd be able to go about it a lot faster if you'd leave a tip. I don't think leaving a tip makes printers fast. Anyone can make a name for themselves, as long as they're willing to put in the work. Mock new money all you want, but the truth is that success is all about reinventing yourself, and the only ones uncomfortable with that are the Icaria. Guess they weren't always in the same line of work. Now they're plastering their name wherever to get themselves a new image. All the neo-ability are eager to prop up their image wherever they can. But that must go double for the Icarias. Assuming the truth about their criminal past is anywhere close to the rumors. I love reading! That's good, Kazlal, because this game is mostly me reading. What's this? That's a lot of screens. There's got to be diminishing returns on productivity. Why do you have so many monitors, ma'am? You can't just ask someone that. Good question. Every quarter when they do inventory and budgeting, they ask me if I need anything, and I never do, so I submit a blank form. But I guess a while back there was a +1 in a spreadsheet somewhere, and no one's ever corrected it, and so, boom, I get 4 new monitors every year. Do you run out of things to use them for? Sometimes, but this year I've started running 2 dramas at once when I'm doing rote work, which helps. David Asher's name actually showed up in episode 0. Yes, there's things everywhere. You've got to be detectiving. Watching 2 television shows at the same time helps you do rote work. Helps me use up the screens. I see. Are these all dead bodies? One would hope so. I only meant that I'm surprised to see them stored here. It suggests a backlog, which suggests a higher murder rate than the public data would lead one to expect. Do you only examine bodies for the police, Doctor? Oh, I wish. Nah, most of my job involves confirming COD on natural deaths or insurance adjustments. Insurers want to blame the mod for failing, mod makers want to blame the stiff for not exercising enough. Family says the company insurance plan would pay for mods, but not a gym membership. Wait, Sato is hot. Yeah, she's kind of like, look, I'm leblebium. Yeah, that whole wall there is suspected defective liver mods, suspected leaking internal bio batteries, suspected CCIC. CCIC? Climate change induced complications? You can prove that climate change contributed to an otherwise natural death? Very, very rarely. If it can be proved, what does that mean for the family of the deceased? Plus or minus 14% on the life insurance payout. I mean, it's most of what I do, and I don't dislike my job. It's just so much of what I do boils down to telling a bunch of cheapskates how to split the dead man's bill. It's enough to make a homicide feel like a breath of fresh air. Is she finishing up over there? Right, okay, so what's up? Thanks for your time, Dr. Sato. My first question would be, what was the cause of death? Oh, wow, hi there. Cute android. I didn't realize it was really cute. The skin that's remarkable. Even just looking close, you can tell they really are warm. Oh my. Still not quite human body temperature, but they've come a long way. The early gens all looked flushed, felt like they were always running a fever. They ran like it too. Even 2 years ago, the average warm android only lasted... Sorry, but the circumstances surrounding this particular case call for, expediency. Right, right. People are biting each other in my chat or something. What's going on? And yeah, happy birthday, CS! Yay, yay, yippee, yay! And hi, me. So what can I tell you? Cause of death, please. Well, cause of death, sure. We got that much figured out at least. Why doesn't that sound particularly reassuring? Dr. Asher died of respiratory failure. Not enough oxygen in the blood, not enough blood going to the brain. Root cause being widespread depression of the central nervous system. What would the symptoms be? What would it have looked like? Lightheadedness, followed by dizziness, then headaches, slurred speech, exhaustion. Loss of consciousness, and finally respiratory arrest. Report shows that the EMTs tried intubation and resuscitation through electrical stimulation repeatedly. By the time he got to the emergency room, they were desperate enough to attempt direct artificial blood oxygenation, but it was too late. And you're certain of all this? Oh, well, most of it, sweetie. Most of it? Yeah, it's turned into quite the puzzle, and I'm used to having more pieces to start with. I was surprised a man as rich and famous as him didn't have any kind of biomes, but his files show... What? Biomes? Only that's a new term for us. I mean, I know what a biome is, but this feels like it's being used in a different way. Is it up in the evidence, maybe? Nope. I just want to look at her profile. Loves to make playlists, hates to throw out old clothes. She likes reality TV. Oh, she's a Survivor girly. He wasn't a viable candidate for modding. Yeah, that's right. Without that kind of first-hand tech, we don't have nearly as much data as we'd like. But he was extensively monitored from the moment the EMTs arrived. We're very certain about our conclusion. What's your favorite biome? Mine is the tundra. I like the jungle. Yeah, a lot of big trees, and there's kitty cats. Did you find anything else unusual about his body in your examination? Cuts or bruises? No injection sites, nothing in any cavities. Nothing at all, huh? The police mentioned a tox screen? Yeah, that's the thing. They ran a tox screen when he first arrived. Typical diagnostic intake procedure. Based on the emergency call, they figured he must have overdosed on something, but the tox screen gave them nothing. Tox screen. Only alcohol was determined in his body. Yeah, we know about that. It's the emergency stuff. Okay, I was trying to see if anything else had popped up there. Okay. After he died, we performed with the broadest screening as possible. Nothing. So you were forced to conclude this was a natural death? I didn't give up that easy. I took blood samples and compared their makeup with what was on record in his previous medical history, and I managed to isolate a single non-naturally occurring chemical compound that wasn't there before. What was it? Some exotic toxin from a different hemisphere? I wish. I ran it through every available database we have access to, and even a few I only sort of have access to through some friends. And not only does it not match any known poison, it doesn't match the chemical makeup of any registered compound. That sounds like it might be one of them designer drugs we was talking about the last time, don't it, Sage? She doesn't say anything. And you know, Sarah, real helpful android. Sage, absolutely useless to me. Does not ever talk. Does not ever help me. Sage. I shouldn't be too mean. You know, I'm babysitting her after all. So a designer drug, huh? That seems to be the best explanation. Ow. Hunting horn.
Try accelerating.
Ow, okay, I'll try. Jeez, I guess I am kind of going slow. What the hell did you do, David? You said it didn't match any registered compound? What about compounds that aren't registered? Those friends of yours, private sector folks? Yeah, in pharmaceuticals. If one of them patented a new compound, a new drug, what would keep its formula from going on the record? In the private sector, intellectual privacy is the norm, so you're expected to protect your research aggressively. Patent first, find a use later. Yeah, and a patent would have to at least describe your compound in brief, but depending on what country you'd file in, I've heard it may be considered prudent to keep the actual chemical makeup off the record. Smart, using international IP law as your own personal minefield. How so? Whenever you're ahead, patent as much as you can, as fast as you can, but bury the formulae so no one knows where it's safe to walk. Anybody small and ambitious comes along, finds a new drug they're excited about, you flip your card, let them know you came up with the idea years ago. And that, you'll give them the death by 1,000 court dates if they so much as blink. Wouldn't work on anyone your size or bigger. They could punch back, but for the rest of the field, wow, you corporate lawyers are scary. I'm not a corporate lawyer. So you came up with that strategy just now? So it's possible that this poison is actually a known substance? Something that the hospital could have easily identified? I think my favorite color on you is purple. On who? Not on me. On Orunner? Man, I thought you would talk about me. I'm purple. If it wasn't considered a trade secret. Yes, unfortunately that is a possibility. Still, just because a drug is new, that doesn't mean it's original. Does the effect that this compound had remind you of any other drug? Maybe one that's prescription only, or a controlled substance? One you might know by another name, but with a patented structure. Sorry, sweetheart, it's a general depressant. There are a lot of drugs that have that effect on the body, and they all come in all shapes and sizes from all kinds of places. If the effect was unremarkable, what about its strength? Could you estimate how much of this stuff he had in his body all told? Not precisely, no, not without detailed knowledge on its half-life, but I'd guess that it must have been about 20 milligrams? Is 20 milligrams a lot? Not for a medicine, so this wasn't just an overdose of something relatively harmless then. No, not if 20 mil was enough to crash his entire nervous system. Thank you, Yumi. Of course, so, you ready to view the body? We could skip it if you want. I know most people get squeamish around corpses. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay then, let's get started. Yay! We get to look at a corpse! We get to see a dead body! Yoo-hoo! Yay! Alright, I'll step out for a moment to give you some privacy. Yes, please. Thank you. Half-Life. Gabe N. Last time we talked was on a Sunday. You were complaining, I remember that. It's the principle of the matter. Right, you had ordered this cheap piece of shit sculpture or something by mistake, and it came damaged and you wanted to send it back for a refund. I gently reminded you how, with your salary, it was literally not worth your time. I kindly offered to throw it out for you since you're having so much trouble letting go. You're only offering because you want to see how loud it sounds shattering at the bottom of my trash can. I denied it even though you were right and it was obvious. I should have let you have that one. I thought that he would look different. But he looks exactly the same as I remember. His skin is pale, and he's very still. But his face is the same. His hair, his hands. You were expecting something more drastic? The last time I saw him, he was alive. He smiled, and he told me he would see me soon. Now he is dead. Something is gone, and I can't find the difference. I'm trying to look harder, but I think I might just not be capable of it, and I wonder why. Why was I created to not be capable? Damn, same girl, I'm not capable of shit. Could be an issue of skill! Skill issue! Skill issue, android skill issue, nerd! Or maybe it's not something that can be seen no matter how hard you look. But it's there. I guarantee it. I've seen the transition enough times to be sure that between life and death, the distinction has significance. To the dead, at the very least. Imagine a Miku and Teto redraw here. Oh, man. Yeah, someone mod the game. You're going to smoke? Here? Now? I'll pay the fine. That's not the issue. Were you expecting me to fall to pieces? Real boys grieve in all kinds of ways, Pinocchio. And some don't grieve at all, it seems. I'm a cold woman. Sorry to disappoint. The hell? Why the hell won't this thing light? I don't know. You'll have your cigarette backwards. Ah! 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 So she was feeling out of sorts and hiding it. Alright, that's back in the cold storage for him, so... Need anything else? Oh, I thought we'd examine the body. I guess we don't have to. Can you send me the chemical makeup of that compound you isolated? Sure, for what it's worth. Let me just... It's got carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen with hexagonal structures. So it's organic, but there's a number of metallic elements too. And if you had to speculate on its intended use based on what we know of its structure, well, it certainly acted like a depressant, binding to receptor pathways and affecting the balance of neurotransmitter reuptake. Depressants are pretty rare in the designer drugs scene. True, people are always looking for a higher high or a crazier trip, but a more powerful depressant will just make you fall asleep. Not much need to hit up the gray market for that kind of experience. No, there's not. I see. Thanks again. You've been extremely helpful during a very difficult time. Hey, anything you need, give me a ring. That's very generous. Rockford's orders have got me on call, so I'm already getting overtime the whole weekend. Glad to hear it. Goodbye, Yumi. And goodbye to you, Greenie. My name is Sarah. Nice to meet you, Sarah. Is she flirting with Sarah? Huh? 2:13 p.m., July 1st, 2086. So it's been a couple hours. Up on ramps and down off ramps, above skywalks and under tram lines. The buildings get progressively more polished as we head into the most economically developed part of the city. Corporate territory, national headquarters for the likes of Howe Industries, Lock-Kun, Tethys, Neath, each of them sheltering their own micro-city of employee accommodations beneath their skyscrapers' shadows. Whale Fall, the entirety of the ocean floor coming together to feast and grow and live. Live off the fetid, rotting fat of the leviathans that swallow generations of people by the mouthful. Weight is commonly listed, and my weight is... Do I really have to disclose that? Noble lays claim to one of the largest shadows in the city, towering nerve center for the whole nation's android industry. It's meant to be intimidating, I'm sure, but today I'm glad that Noble keeps such a sizable physical presence here. Oh yeah, Raven, you missed it. There's a new redeem for the streams. That's only one person per stream. It's middle management. It's like first, but you get promoted without any sort of pay increase. Yeah. More responsibilities. Same, pay. No upside to it. It's meant to be intimidating, I'm sure, but today I'm glad that Noble keeps such a sizable physical presence here. I need answers about David and his work on Sarah. Answers I'd never get browsing the company website or speaking to a representative. Synopsis. Relationships. There are typically trivia sections as well. Should I start there? Noble will have their guard up, of course, but even that will tell me something. Where they let me walk, who they let me talk to. History. Their efforts at performative transparency and clumsy obfuscation. Ah, I can speak. How did you know my father? What? I'm sorry, did I interrupt your brooding? No, what did you ask? My father, I know you were his friend, but what was your relationship like? Can't you just scroll through our socials? Father avoided social media, and your online presence is Not significant. You saying I don't have enough followers? Essentially. Oh! We went to the same college. You studied programming? No, I studied all kinds of different things as an undergrad, but not technology. Is that a good way to prepare for law school? I wasn't preparing for law school. Or anything else, really. David, though, he had talent and he knew he wanted to do something with it. He studied programming, robotics, discrete math, cybernetics. What classes did you share then? Business ethics. I was the second best student in the class, and he was the first. He was the one who asked the most questions, not sure about his actual ranking. He found the course challenging, and I clearly didn't, despite being younger. Guess he felt burned. He'd come up to me after class to argue, and sometimes to ask for help. Father always talked about socializing like it was a chore. It was kind of you to give him a chance. What, like I was some kind of social butterfly? The belle of the ball? You weren't? One Sunday night... Wait! Sunday?! Woo! Sunday mention. Sorry. He knocked on my door all panicked, saying he was in bad shape for this tech course. There was a midterm or something the next day. I couldn't make heads or tails of the material, but I did my best to at least quiz him. He wasn't satisfied, though, wanted to cram the rest of the night. Father had to cram for an undergraduate midterm? Did I say something scandalous? He's been called the founder of modern programming. Yeah, well, even founder types can have poor time management when they're 21. 21? He was already fried by that point. It wasn't hard to tell what he was really asking for. So I went ahead and stole a study aid for him. You stole a controlled substance just to help him with studying. No, that'd be insane. No, I just pocketed some breath mints from the common room. Told him to pinch his nose and swallow fast, 'cause the taste is so strong. You gave him a placebo. He already knew the content as good as he ever would. What he needed was to sleep. He could barely keep his eyes open by the time I got back from my daring heist. Didn't take much convincing for him to rest his eyes just until it kicked in. And the test? B+, I think. I'm surprised the father stayed close with you after that. You stole and lied to him. I stole and lied for him. And David understood that. He was good at understanding things without me having to spell them out. But I guess that's not the kind of thing that gets passed down through programming. Anyway, we kept in touch after that. First year of grad school, he published this paper. The Turing Solution, a framework for programming adaptive linguistic heuristics. One of his advisors came up with a title. David thought it was too cocky, but it still hasn't failed any known Turing tests in the years since. Look at her, she's so smug. Smuggle little android. Don't act like you're the one who deserves credit for it. He called me one weekend asking for advice on how to handle all the attention. Job offers, interviews, apprenticeships, invitations to immigrate. What did you tell him? I don't remember telling him anything, actually. A lot of our conversations went like that. He would talk to me about whatever personal or professional problem he was stuck in his head that day, and I would nod while he wore himself out. And at the end of the conversation, he'd thank me, even though I hadn't offered a single word of advice. He took Noble's offer, and they took over his education, paid him to work on his master's during the day and attend corporate training at night. Whatever else Noble may be, they were smart enough to start listening to him early. You know, I think they're like the thing where you just like yap at someone and like you figure out your own thing and all, they didn't even do anything. That's very real. I've done that. I've had that a lot of times. You're referring to his 1-point doctrine. Quality over quantity. Simple and elegant, just like his code. Simple and elegant, but an anathema to a global corporation with supply chains designed for maximum capacity and just-in-time manufacturing. I've been both of them. Yeah, same. I've been on both sides of that. But obviously, they got over the distaste fast enough. In the span of a few years, Noble's gone from making manual labor ads for a meager profit to being the world leader in intelligence as a service. Even as he was making money hand over fist, he still kept in contact with a nobody like me. I moved to the city for my apprenticeship. He helped me put a down payment on my apartment, then made up excuses as to why he couldn't help me move boxes. So, is that enough detail for you? Thoroughly convinced that he and I were, in fact, friends? I am. But, Adonai, the favor that you owe him, what was it for? That's private, understand? I have zero interest in talking about it with you. Say you understand. I understand, Adonai. We will be arriving shortly. Shall I send word ahead? Just tell them that David's lawyer is here. A great conversation is just a monologue. Sometimes. 2:49 p.m. Noble Electronics Northeastern HQ. Sublobby A8. I've been here before. I've played these games before. Sat right here in this lobby waiting for David to come and treat me to lunch. At least I think it was this lobby. Could have been some other floor, could have been an entirely different building. All these corporate towers of Babel feel like they're interchangeable fractals to me. Folding in on themselves in patterns of narcissistic paranoia. So monumental in the scale of their hubris, they needed to use non-Euclidean geometry when drawing up the blueprints. The greatest minds of each generation coming together just to find the most expensive way to shove their heads up their asses. Adonai, is something bothering you? Just doing the math on how long we'll be kept waiting here. Oh, see you later, Original. Enjoy Lurk. Making coffee? Oh, make me some. I need some coffee. Apparently, someone will be here shortly. So maybe if I pass the time by glaring around the place, it'll improve my mood. I'm gonna glare around. I'm gonna glare at this tree. To think this is only one room. The complex is so massive that it doesn't even feel man-made. It's like it was carved out of the rock by waves, like it's always been here. That's the con. If this place was actually naturable? If this place was naturable type, if it was all natural like, they'd be voids everywhere. I hadn't considered that. Why aren't there birds in here? Probably because of what they do to the ones that get in. I'm kidding. Though I don't have a better explanation. They changed the logo again. Noble Electronics. How's it feel stepping in here? Is this some kind of religious experience for you? It's just the corporation where my father worked. Careful now, they'll burn you for heresy against the company. You said it again, the company, as if it's a proper noun. You're mimicking the employees, aren't you? So it can't obey simple orders, but it can pick up on that? Is it just a part of the corporate culture? Noble's one of the biggest corporations there is, one of the biggest there's ever been. We mere humans can't hope to escape the gravity of anything that size, no matter where you live or how far off the grid you think you are. So imagine what it's like working for them. You live in company dorms, work in company quarters. Wherever you go, that logo is above your head. You eat, sleep, and breathe on Noble's timetable, at its discretion. How do you like it? Oh, I like my coffee with just a little bit of cream. Just a little bit of creamer. Don't need much. No sugar. When you spend your whole life inside of it, Noble must feel big enough to be the only company there is. Hey, there's two people up there. Look at them. In the little circle. Look at that little tiny little guys. So much energy. So many people. Also, intent. You kidding? It's Saturday. The place is half empty. But doesn't everyone work on Saturdays? All the parents do, so they don't need to find childcare on Sunday. Everyone else flips a coin, I guess. All these people, For 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, what could they all possibly be doing? Making work for themselves. You can be very cynical, can't you? Yeah, I'm terrible. But that guy over there has just been jiggling his cursor for the last 20 seconds. Whoever comes to greet us better have a pulse and some goddamn authority. My mood's starting to sour. If they just send me the first link in their infinite chain of corporate bureaucracy, I'll make them wish... Morgan? That's me! Hey there. Android Manufacturing Quality Control, Eastern Division. Evan Dawes. Evan Dawes, he says, like it's an afterthought. What's a name compared to your place in the hierarchy? You seem familiar. Have you... I'm David's lawyer. Oh, then we must have... Apologies, let me first just say how sorry I am about his passing. You and everyone else at the company must be going through a lot right now. As if it's a proper noun. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me. You're welcome, but it's no big deal. Everyone's on the razor today, but what else is new? And compared to PR or legal right now, our workloads in QA are... Never mind. How can I assist you? Shortly before his passing, Dr. Asher began the process of registering this android. Yes, that is correct. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to finish the job. Look at that. It's definitely custom. Gee, you think? Good thing I sought out an expert. Warm, it goes without saying. Reminds me of the A16 Premiere, if anything. The barcode is clearly printed, no visible defects. But you're right, it doesn't correspond to anything we've got on file. Well, they sent you to the right man for the job. Now we just need to go to the right place. Not far, I hope? It's in the building. In the building? That could mean anything from down to hall to the half-a-day's hike. The production line on B9 should have everything we need. You do manufacturing inside your corporate headquarters? B9's a fully functional production floor, but it was only built for demonstrative purposes. New clients make deals upstairs about how many and in what shape or size, then they come down to the basement to see how the sausage is made. They have enough money to build a fake factory just for guests? Smart, so as long as you're only giving tours and not giving away company secrets. No need to worry about that. We take intellectual security very seriously around here. No kidding, there are 11 cameras on us at the moment that I can see. And who knows how many pairs of modded eyes are aimed our way. Clearly, nothing happens here without the almighty company knowing about it. So if they try and claim ignorance about anything, it's gonna piss me off. Lead the way. Noble Electronics, Northeastern HQ. Basement floor 9. It really is fully furnished down here. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's pretty rare to get to see all this in person, you know. Would you mind terribly if I looked around for a moment? No problem. I've got some prelim paperwork I need to handle anyway, so have at it. Better take full advantage. I'll need more than cursory knowledge if I want to figure out where Sarah came from and why David wanted me to take custody. I'm gonna look around. You stay put in the meantime. I don't know. Wouldn't want to lose you among the rest of the merchandise. Let's look around. Oh, coffee, right there. Oh, I can't pick it up. Damn it, you put it out of my reach. How could you do this to me? Octo will get a cup of cream. I don't want a cup. I want coffee. Just a little tiny bit of cream. Okay. Jeez. What's being built out there? Our top-of-the-line, brand-new bestsellers. The Animate 16. Warm. Looks kind of cold out there. We keep the factory floor refrigerated. Shows the organics already tuned Let's try that from the top. Slows the organics already tuned metabolic activity to a minimum. That explains why the room doesn't smell like rotting flesh. The flesh out there is only somewhat rotting. Slowly. I just meant I'm surprised to see metal. Oh, well, all the A16s have alloy endoskeletons. The organics are layered on later in the process. Sounds like what Sarah told me about herself. Maybe she really was the A16's prototype. But it's It's hard to imagine bridging the gap between her and these scattered doll parts. I get you can grow just about anything from lax Gemini, but how do you get the synthetic and the organic to work together?
Yeah, that was our first concern when R&D began to work on the warm concept. The 1.0s were real skin with synthetic muscle, and it was a horror show. Metal pulling on skin was just...
Right.
For 2.0, they worked backwards. Organic muscles, organic skin, but digital signals on organic hardware was a dead end.
Didn't the muscles flex when you passed an electric current through them?
They'd flex and unflex, sure, but that's not nearly precise enough for facial expressions. It looked like puppets strung up on live wires. We'd use the test footage to haze interns, actually.
You must have figured something out. The A-16 wouldn't look out of place on the runway.
Thank you. We try. We ended up reaching out to mod companies. We actually just bought out a half dozen of them, but...
Right.
They figured out how to get human nervous systems moving mechanical limbs decades ago. So we just needed to get a mechanical nervous system to move... living limbs.
A very clumsy attempt to avoid using the word human.
High-precision mods are slotted straight into the nervous system. They receive their input from neurotransmitters.
Talking is so hard sometimes.
Neurotransmitters, but not bioelectricity.
So you had to do the opposite.
Exactly. We created a synthetic neurotransmitter that our androids could use to communicate with organic flesh.
Where did that breakthrough come from? Dr. Asher?
Partly. He led the team that built the motor neurons in this analogy.
Somebody get this Axolotl her coffee so she can speak. Yeah, for real.
Where's my coffee? Where's my coffee? They carry commands from the central nervous OS to individual muscles across the chassis. But the the synthetic analog serotonin, that was actually an old brainchild from the VP of Android Futures, Helen Young.
Young. Hasn't David mentioned a Dr. Young before? Sounds impressive.
She's one hell of a biochemist. Or she was, I guess. Not much time for individual lab work when you get to her kind of pay grade.
So Young collaborated with David on the technology that enabled warm androids. As I thought, whatever went into Sarah that makes the android so distinct, he couldn't have taken the sole credit for it. Young. Did he partner with her on this?
A teleporter.
This seems to share some components with the coffin that Sarah was napping in. If DAWS does quality assurance, is it some kind of android calibration device? It's probably what I'll use to register Sarah. Looks a little... Is Sarah tall enough for it to recognize her? She's a shorty? An inhaler left out on the desk. Probably a half dozen empty ones in one of the drawers. DAWS, the inhalers, they're distributed by the company, correct?
Coffee!
Whoa! Thanks again, Wizard. So, hi, Otter.
Oh yeah, HR handles it. They personalize your dosage and prescription and update it based on performance and job fulfillment reviews.
Other corporations do it the same way?
Yeah, pretty much. Everyone's trying to keep pace with each other, so... Can't have your employees losing focus on the job. Could cost you who knows how much in lost efficiency.
Sorry if this is insensitive, but given what happened to David, are overdoses common in Gorpuski, the company?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says.
Overdoses, that is, not hospitals.
Okay, I'm taking a drink of some caffeine. Give me one moment. Wake up. There we go.
Overdoses, that is, not hospitalizations or deaths. It's all pretty organized these days.
These days?
Man, back when I started in consulting, pretty much everyone had an embarrassing story from their first 2 years where they popped a few too many greens and, missed the on-ramp.
Popped greens?
Yeah, it used to be pills. Green to get you going, yellow to keep you there. Swallow a red after brushing your teeth and get into your bunk fast. But yeah, the inhalers are a huge improvement, like going from torches to the light bulb. They sync straight to your personal biomes and adjust dosage in real time. Overdoses are way down.
That's great to hear.
The trainees under me don't realize how good they've got it. Kids probably won't even have to learn how to purge.
Yeah, I know, right? The act of... Okay, so purging is it still means the same thing. Yep. That means puking. Yeah, I know, right? These drugs are fictional. Hey, YouTube, these drugs are fictional. There's something out there that caught my eye when we came in. These drugs are fictional. A very familiar shade of crimson. If I squint through the glass, out on the floor there are temperature-controlled fluid tanks. Through glass and plastic flows an eye-catching scarlet that transitions to... So you add the blood towards the end?
You mean the oxidant? Yeah, relatively late in the process. Something out of place?
Androids have blood, even if it's not officially labeled as such. But it isn't red. It's pink. Sometimes milky, sometimes neon, occasionally garish, but pink. This has implications for Danganronpa. I just didn't think the oxidant would be red.
Oh, right. Sorry, I barely noticed it at this point. The color's natural. Comes from the biomanufacturing process. That chromafuge out there removes the byproducts, the waste, the excess pigment,
changing it from blood red to psychopop pink.
Without that chromafuge, our android's flesh would come out looking all the wrong colors.
That may be true. It probably isn't, but it may be. But I have a simpler explanation. Blood is primal. The sight of it carries weight. They changed the color of their product's blood so that when an android gets a bottle broken against its face, no one bats an eye. Feels like I've seen this before. That's right, there was one in David's lab.
That's the nanograde elementary manufacturer, nanofacturer for short. Real high-quality piece of machinery. Each of them built in-house by Randock Mechanics.
What does it do?
Nano-level flash fab.
Flash fab. Method of manufacturing artificial microscopic compounds. Nanomachines. Okay. Nanolife Industrial Lobbying Group has remained unwavering. Nothing that small can possibly leave that big of an ecological footprint.
Basically, a 3D printer for nanomachines.
You build nanomachines in your factories for use in your androids? Wouldn't getting DAWs to talk this much slow down his paperwork? Yeah, but we're here for information more than paperwork, you know?
The raw materials are cheap, literally elementary, so no sense in getting them shipped in. It's mostly the medical models that make use of them. Inject a couple thousand nanites into a patient's bloodstream, run diagnostics, and provide a solution.
A 3D printer for nanomachines. So what kind of ink does it use?
Silicon, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, building blocks. They feed into the nanoprinter and it assembles the machines particle by particle.
Like a ribosome building structurally complex proteins out of chemically simple amino acids. Science stuff. Must be time consuming.
You would think, but Randock cracked the code on parallel microfracturing. The inside's crystalline, sprawling, like an ant's nest. Raw materials enter one of the thousands of different entry points, combining and recombining at intersections. The finished product ends up at the center and drips out in a liquid solution. Distilled nectar, swimming with millions of nanites in just 2 minutes.
Oh, it's like that manga where there's that hole that's made for that guy and he goes into it. And when he comes out the other end, he's made of nanomachines. Nectar, it's sticky?
It can be depending on the desired output, but when the door vacuum seals while it's cooking, so don't worry, it's completely spill-proof.
What a relief. Not exactly a box of paper clips David could just have brought home from the office one day. He must have bought his own for some reason. Yeah, He needed to make some kind of custom nanomachines? That's odd. Paper clips, huh? What do we got on this data pad? Some kind of write-up. On the subject of Sullivan's Peak. Day, Uncanny Valley, thought experiment, yeah. We like things that resemble the living, like cartoons and puppets and toys. I'm those things. I'm cartoons, puppets, and toys. I like things that are damn near indistinguishable from the living. Yeah, it's that trench, the uncanny valley. That's very real. The space between nearly indistinguishable and truly indistinguishable is much wider than we ever suspected. It may not be the only part of the map that we must fear. That's interesting. I propose we bridge these gaps in knowledge by looking to the speculative fiction of Robert J. Sullivan, who in his most well-known work, Equal Under One Sky, described a concept which thereafter has been called Sullivan's Peak, through the lens of his characters and their their so very divided world, not so-called. Sullivan demonstrated that the uncanny valley does in fact have its own peak on the other side, a point past which making an artificial existence any more human in its features serves only to make the user experience more uncomfortable. Ooh, interesting. I wonder if that could be a real thing. Your puppet? Yeah, I'm kind of like a Muppet. Yay! More difficult, more fraught with moral pitfalls. Once you reach Sullivan's Peak, traveling any further only has diminishing returns. Implications of this idea are far-reaching. You'll soon reach a point which the designers of ads can only make their creations less lifelike or less likable, a hard stopping point for technological progress. What then, we must ask? Oh, looks like you forgot to sign in this device. Wow, I can't believe this article is like from the Midwest. Just, oh, let me just squeeze on by there. Surprised to find reading material like that around here. Look at you, having fun. I am having fun. I'm always having fun when I'm streaming. At least when I'm not sick. And I'm not sick anymore. I do still my nose is a little stuffy. You might notice that with all the talking I'm doing today, but I feel good. Were they passing it around as a gag, or are they actually afraid of Sullivan's Peak around here? Noble must be. I imagine they must be wary of it, right? Like, it could really impact their business. If the peak does exist, they'll be coming up on it fast now that androids are warm. Like, they're getting really close, right? Noble's entire product line, maybe their entire industry, could go bottoms up if people start to think it's cruel. If Sarah's any indication of where their androids are headed, I could see some people getting uncomfortable. Sarah is very, very lifelike so far, to the point where I'm wondering if there's something else going on with Sarah, which, I mean, like, just to step out of the game for a moment, we've seen the whole AI psychosis thing going on in the real world, right? Now, imagine that instead of that being ChatGPT on someone's phone, it's, like an android that looks like a real person and feels like a real person because they're flesh and blood and they have body warmth, right? That would fuck you up. That would really fuck you up.
All done? You ready to get the ad handled? Thanks for humoring me. Can you have it step into the scanner?
As he says. Understood.
Right, then what are we looking at here? Whoa, there's a lot to unpack here.
We theorized it may have been Asher's pincushion.
A pincushion, huh? Computer,
make your real.
Wait, it happened. She's right here. That would explain some of what I'm reading here.
What language is that on the screen?
Tesseract? All Noble products and, well, pretty much all products, period, are programmed in Tess.
Tesseract 4.6. Programming language. Robots, holograms, androids, react more in their environment intelligently. Okay. Mid-21st century globalization, standardization. Okay. Interesting. The study and teaching of other older programming languages is mostly done for recreation, hobby, or digital archaeology.
easy to read and write, stay compliant. Now this model, what's it go by?
Sarah.
This Sarah model, it's got everything the 16th line has, that's for sure. Organic skin, hybrid muscles, advanced facial processing and emoting. But there's a lot crammed in here that's still in development. Like, in the idea phases. Solar cell hair strands, decentralized redundant power, mental and physical overclocking with extended tolerances. Data storage so large I can't... No. Wow, he had to measure it using...
Hell of a poker face.
Wait, decryption and signal hijacking? That's...
Hacking?
essentially...
Does that mean it could hack its own tenets? Programming framework. This is like the laws of robotics, right? Once added to a program, a tenet cannot be circumvented under any traditional circumstances. Even then, only if a tenet with a higher weight supersedes... Yeah, this is laws of robotics. As a trio, 3 priorities that yep. These were the laws of robotics, but it's ballooned to 113. Oi! Tenets are well known for increasing the decision time lag of programs. This, combined with their engineered inflexibility, has made it such that at most programmers aim for a tenet limit below 30. Okay. The one tenet that could not be removed from any program was tenet safety 0. Said tenet dictated that the following program could not produce outcomes that would result in harm to a living person. After the decision reached in People versus Volstance defense contractors and the resulting widespread adoption of automated dependence in the military and security sectors, this is no longer required, though Tenet 0 may still be added to particularly benign or mundane software as a good luck charm, superstitious ritual, or joke. As a joke? Haha, we want you to not harm humans as a joke. That'd be so funny. Oh no, that's unthinkable, literally for an ad. For an ad to break its tenets would be like you stepping into traffic or dropping a baby. Even if you're physically capable of it, it's not something you would ever choose to do. Some people do walk into traffic. Psychotics, addicts, the mentally ill. Does that mean there are androids?
Well, no, there aren't crazy androids, so yeah. I guess my analogy doesn't hold up.
That's okay. Let me chat and chat. Yeah, let Ravengold chat and chat. What's wrong? That's okay. So it can't hack itself, but it was given the ability to hack other systems?
The industry line is such that a capability could be an option in certain emergency scenarios. Breaking through firewalls and encryption of surrounding electronics to broadcast directly to police or military channels. Speaking of military, this musculoskeletal setup is drastic. I've never seen this on a consumer model.
Can you lift a car or something, Sarah? Most cars. It would depend on the center of gravity.
Lady, this Sarah could wrestle a public disturbance walker and come out on top.
Those stomping behemoths they bring out for riot suppression?
And in terms of computational ability, the estimate says that can't be right.
Look, Dawes, I was actually hoping you could telling me something about the softwareing or the metadating. Who worked on it and when?
Right. Okay. Well, that's unfortunate. The editing logs have been purged.
That doesn't sound very above the board.
Sorry, I can't tell you anything about who worked on Sarah or when.
Any chance you can restore those logs?
Not here, not with this machine. I'd need computers that were actually used for the programming of this model. Any idea where those would be?
Sarah? I cannot answer that question with any accuracy. I had a feeling you might say that. Anime character type strength? Yeah, she can, like, throw cars and, like, you know, like, kill me. I hope she doesn't do that.
Sorry, I can tell you that the code is unique. There's hints of the A16 in there, a few of the same conclusions, it's just Dr. Asher or whoever took very different paths to get there.
So Sarah has even less in common with every other android on the inside?
Sorry, didn't expect to hit a dead end here.
Not at all, you've been very helpful. Can we still get the registration done?
Yeah, no problem. We've got the software and forms all set up here. Occasionally, we let a new business partner bring one home fresh from the oven, you know.
Oven? Gross.
Alright, a few basic questions then. Who's going to be the official owner of this unit?
She is. As it says, unless the will disagrees, it's my responsibility.
Right then. You fine with the designation Sarah? We can set it to anything you'd like.
Well, actually...
Don't you make that face at me, young lady.
Never mind, Sarah will do fine.
Okay, this part's all standard. Civilian model, address, contact info I can get from your crumbs. Do you want to reset to factory defaults? Could clear up a lot of quirks.
Not right now.
The last thing, then, is the grading. I'm reading 23 tenets here, nothing too far out of the ordinary.
23, that's higher than I expected, talking with it. She seemed more malleable than that.
Don't blame yourself. Guessing tenet count from outward appearance has become a not like it used to be. Used to be they only had 3 tenets total and every unit had to have them. Then came the first accidents, the first lawsuits, then the hearings in the legislature.
And the demand for more tenets. The tenant making sure ads couldn't endanger the state. The tenant stating that ads wouldn't divulge private information without prior consent. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to weigh child and adult lives equally during risk assessment. There was a campaign calling for a tenant to do the opposite.
Companies wanted their asses covered, customers wanted guarantees. There was never much incentive to deny a requested tenant, so the list just ballooned.
If you find this stuff in particular very interesting, you should check out RoboCop 2, where RoboCop gets so many laws of robotics behavior stuff crammed into his poor little brain that eventually he just flips out because, you know, a corporation kept trying to get him to behave a particular way even though he was a person. I like RoboCop 1 and 2. I've never seen 3.
Until the military entered the market in full force.
You sound like you don't approve.
I wouldn't go that far. They need their ads to be able to pull the trigger when ordered to. Without clearing 5,000 lines of bloated, hard-coded decision points to get there. I get that. But since the armies are the only ones using tech with the bare minimum tenets, all the best, least cluttered, most elegant code is only used for war games. It's not very romantic. It's not romantic. We need to be more romantic. Well, not like I was on the jury.
Department of Advanced Defense Projects versus Zenith Dynamics. The Supreme Court sided with the military's requests, set a new precedent that every other army around the world would race to meet. Changing tenets from a mandated list at the root of every ad source to a choose-your-own checklist.
It's funny, ads with the most tenets, they're so locked up you can't even have a conversation with them. And outside the armed forces, the only ads with single-digit tenet counts are just vacuuming floors. The most impressive ones, like what you've got here, fall somewhere in the middle. Sorry, went on a tangent there. Only thing left is the evaluation.
My lower back hurts a little. Oh, yeah, yeah, you shouldn't lift things like that, CS. My lower back hurts all the time! Ah! Because one of the discs in my spine exploded, like... 10? More than 10 years ago? Oh my god, that spine surgery was more than 10 years ago. And it still hurts. What the hell? Chronic pain, baby! You'll know about it when you get older, y'all. Everyone ends up with something. Everyone ends up with something.
Total financial worth for insurance purposes. Yeah, the insurance companies made sure we had very accurate algorithms for this. No room for human error, they insisted with no sense of irony. Wow. I mean, I knew it was custom, but...
What price could they have possibly... That's a lot of digits!
You should know, these formula are pretty conservative with their estimates. Stingy, even. If Sarah's really David's last and greatest work. They say some things are priceless, but when you force an insurance algorithm to pick a number, try not to get any scratches on it, I guess. Yowza.
That wasn't even, wow, that's a high number. That's a lot of digits. That's a scary thing. You spoke differently back there. With Dawes, you spoke like he did, it seemed. Like I copied his accent. You seemed to mirror his affect, his tone. It's called being friendly. What's your point? It was just an observation. You can't choose to keep those to yourself, you know. Oh, you can choose to keep those to yourself, you know. No tenant required. Why were you so concerned about registering me in the first place, Adonai? For the same reason I wouldn't drive around in a car without a license plate? Any cop, or even just a well-placed camera, could have spotted your barcode and seen that it wasn't set up with any actual data. And then they would have arrested me, and then they would have thrown me in the slammer! No, they would have arrested me and put you in an evidence locker. An android can't get arrested? People get arrested. Property gets seized. And then smashed. Right, you put us over the weight limit. I did no such...
Morgan Counselor, your presence has been requested on the upper floors.
Who's asking?
Vice President of Android Futures, Helen Young.
Shouldn't have assumed I still had the opening move. Tell her I'll be right up.
I'll redirect your elevator now.
Taking control of your elevator is very... convenient? Forceful. As if Noble is trying to directly steer your investigation. If Noble wanted to shut me down, they wouldn't bother to be subtle. I suppose they could simply refuse to cooperate. Or just let the elevator drop. They're gonna let me drop.
Noble Electronics, Northeastern HQ. Executive Office. Young. And my phone... beep boop.
This must be her. Right. Speaking first is a sign of weakness, is it? And here I thought I could avoid wading into the swamp of corporate pretend power dynamics. I'ma let her stew. Silence is only awkward if you care. I can ignore social cues all day long. I always liked this time of day. I was all over the place with that. Let's try that again. Let's try that. We need like a, you know, like a corporate, we need like a voice. We need like a corporate kind of thing. Let me think. I always liked this time of day. Not too muggy for you? No. I never liked a clear blue sky. It always seemed cold to me. You're in luck. The sky gets more colorful every year. As the air quality drops. Childish, isn't it? Marveling at the small sheen of rainbow dancing on the surface of a massive oil spill. Apologies for waxing poetic. It's been a very unusual 24 hours around here. Dr. Young. Just Miss is fine. Miss Young, I get the feeling you didn't bring me up here to talk about the weather? No, I brought you up here to express my condolences. I'm very sorry for your loss. Thank you, though I could say the same. I know you and David worked together for many years. Yes, we did, but as much as I'd like to just drop everything and process, the company wheels don't stop spinning for anything or anyone. Was Dawes of any help? Noble Electronics work the same way as Noble Gases, by the way. Oh, true, Mary. Also, hi! She sent him? Trying to be helpful or just trying to control the narrative? He was great, but that must mean you know why I'm here. I don't want to make assumptions. No need, I'll be explicit. I'm here as an officer of the court, which means I'm bound by law to document every rock I turn over and every person I speak to. Yes, the lawyers made that all very clear. Lawyers? You have an android. It's not one of ours. You can tell that quickly. Got all the faces memorized? It's easy enough to remember the major archetypes we use, yes? If you're nuts about your work, maybe. It's a recent acquisition, very recent in fact. One of David's last requests, apparently. David asked you to take it. I've been told you've been to David's estate already. The police gave me full access to the scene. And you know that he wasn't alone last night. Yes, there was a signal? Huh? Get on Signal, y'all. Hop on Signal. Yes, there was a single witness who met with him and called emergency services when he fainted. I was that witness. Really? Obviously, there aren't that many people David would bother meeting with in person, let alone welcoming them into his home and offering them a drink. I also knew that Young is his superior on paper, though not in fame. I knew that the witness had Executive Plan 3 insurance, so they had to be higher up than David. Well then, do your lawyers know we're having this conversation? Of course. They're pulling their hair out about it as we speak. I can't imagine why. The police cleared you. And you were well within your rights to ask for some privacy, given the high-profile nature of all that's happened. So why call me up here? Why cut through all the red tape your lawyers painstakingly hid you behind? Eventually you, or some clever lawyer like you, would get the record opened. Though through legal means or otherwise. The company's enemies are legion, and they have a prying knife for every occasion. Still, that would have taken time. Time you could use to get ahead of what could be the biggest PR hurdle Noble's ever seen. Touché. And so perhaps the truth of the matter is that I simply didn't want to hide. David was my colleague for several years. If I were in your shoes, I would have questions as well. You're doing this for my sake? No, my reasons are purely selfish. Shellfish? My reasons are purely selfish. I'm only hoping that talking to someone whose job isn't to defend me from all consequences might prove therapeutic. If she wants to play confessional, that's fine by me. But is this really all that's going on here? Why don't you start from the beginning, then? You went to his home last night? Yes. At around 7:30 p.m., the building's penumbra captured all of that quite clearly. He fell ill around 8, so you spent half an hour together. Why the late call? In person? We had an intense discussion yesterday afternoon. David never came in on Saturdays, and I didn't want to spend the weekend glaring at him through screens, So I visited, and he let me in and we talked. About? The good old days, if you can believe that. Back when we were both new to the company, eager to make a name for ourselves. How long ago was that? 7 or 8 years ago? Miss Young? Putting a number on it, it doesn't sound that long ago, but it feels... We spent a while like that, just talking. He was lively and sharp, and I never would have thought that a few minutes later... That he would be dead? That he would commit suicide in front of me. A firm reply. What happened? 8:15, he said he wanted to toast. He got up, walked back into his workshop, and then he must have went down into his basement to get us a bottle. That... Doesn't that contradict... Hold on. It's whiskey. Does that contradict what we found at the scene?
I can't remember. Maybe the time? This doesn't sound right, though, because he had... Or was that what we... It's... Man, I hate how I have a week between these episodes. Because we know that he clearly wanted a specific whiskey. So he... Yeah, no, he did. He went into his workshop and he got that bottle. Which, it was, like, notable because that bottle was, 1, a specific whiskey, and 2, it was warm. It wasn't cold. When in his kitchen, he had, like, a walk-in, like... alcohol cooler, right? So he did very particularly go get that bottle. I checked some messages in the meantime, enjoyed the view. In other words, she stayed on camera. He came back with a bottle of whiskey and 2 plastic cups. That's true, yeah, the cups. We drank and talked. He got quieter, spoke less. I thought he was just getting drunk. That lines up with the symptoms of what we know the chemical was. I didn't get worried until he started to fall asleep. Yep. You tried to wake him? He wasn't responding. I tried to shake him awake, but he didn't seem... I left him and ran to the kitchen to use the security system. Security system... Which we do know was used, right? 8:04, medics arrived at 8:08. Okay. No, I suppose I didn't. But it worked out. The Penumbra's emergency protocols summoned a VTOL straight to his helipad with 1 button pressed. When I returned to the parlor, he was limp. I moved him to the floor as delicately as I could. He had a heartbeat, but I just did what I could until they arrived. You went with them to the hospital, I take it? Yes, they insisted. They checked my vitals and ran a tox screen, which came back clean. So did David's, for all the good it did him. I wasn't paying close attention to what they were saying at that point, but I'm sure they ran through every step of the CCE SOP. That's what they're paid to do. You seem certain that it was suicide. Yes. Why? As I said, he got quieter as the time passed, and he spoke less. But the last thing he said to me, the last clear thing he said, was that he was happy ending it here. Said he was content. And he downed his glass after that. He drank every last drop. Not articles. Every last drop. But his cup showed that it had spilled. There was a spill. Does that sound like David Asher to you? Curious, restless, perfectionist David? No, I guess it doesn't. You said CCE, Standard Operating Procedure, a moment ago. What is that? CCE stands for Counter-Corporate Espionage, which is just industry doublespeak for corporate espionage. Only used in self-defense, you understand. So Noble anticipates employees at your level getting poisoned. They give us all kinds of CCE training. Subtly, of course, usually disguised on the itinerary as leadership workshops or psychiatric evaluations. They train you to expect to get murdered at these leadership workshops? Murder is fairly rare at our level. More likely they'll want us too sick to work. Let us drain company resources in a hospital bed while our position sits vacant. That's smart, like snipers purposefully avoiding vital areas to strain the enemy's medical resources. That's terrible, like snipers purposefully avoiding vital areas in order to strain the enemy's medical resources. That's nothing compared to want to turn an asset. Feel ill for the rest of your life with an undiagnosable malady? Or become our mole and we'll send you the antidote every 2 weeks. That's a nasty piece of work. That's a nasty line of work. Consulting. I'm sorry? That's just what they call it. Can't exactly put corporate spy on your CV. So every consultant I've met at a cocktail party was actually... It depends. Did they say they're consultants? Or did they say they were in consulting? How the hell am I supposed to remember?
So do your people think that what happened to David was a deliberate attack?
Noble's competitors have been trying to get to David for years, and that's the timescale their plans operate on. If this was an attack from a rival corporation, the company would have seen it coming. And they'd probably have struck first.
The cups. I've been curious about this ever since I saw the scene. Why the plastic cups?
There's a story there. David and I got hired around the same time under similar circumstances. Headhunted while finishing our higher education. During recruiting, the company claimed to want us badly, but in practice, our actual authority was
inexperienced and overpaid. You must have been extremely unpopular.
You don't mince words.
We didn't either back then.
We were loudly trying to convince our superiors that their entire sales model for androids was antiquated and self-defeating.
The two of them made the one-point doctrine? That's not the story I've heard in Noble commercials and Noble-sponsored media. And come to think of it, it's not a story I ever heard from David himself.
We had this deadline. Self-imposed, but still a deadline. We wanted to get our pitch to the president of international sales by end of day. 7 p.m. rolls around and people start filtering out. David still had his head buried in diagrams and sales figures. Imagine a technical man like him, a programmer, trying to make a sales pitch.
Ooh, sorry. A little borpy there, excuse me. It was quiet. Hopefully it didn't pick up on the mic, but blah.
The clock hits 9 and even the zombies start heading home. I turn to David, tell him it's not gonna happen. We're nowhere near finished and the day's long since been over. He looked at me like I'm the only other person on a sinking boat and I've just stopped pitching water, and he says, "The president lives on the other side of the globe. We've got all night until his end of day." We wrapped up at 4 in the morning. Just us and the cleaning staff. Back then, only half of them were ads. He finally sends the message, and I'm ready to collapse. I've got nothing. We stared blankly at his inbox for the next 40 minutes, hoping that the harsh light would give us the energy to work through the next day. And we got a response. It wasn't long, but it showed he was interested. I'd been turned down so many times before then, ignored and placated, passed up and ghosted. But together, David and we had finally gotten a win. So David asks if I've got anything to drink. I've got a bottle of some swill in a cabinet at my desk, but he doesn't want to drink from the bottle. Says he wants to toast. We sat there at 5:19 in the morning, toasting awful vodka to one another in cups we grabbed from the break room.
Boop. I figured out I can do this. I'm so smart.
Toasting our first victory against the corporate beast. Between the lack of sleep and the drinking, the next day at work was hell. Sounds like a good memory. Plastic cups and liquor, that was our little ritual. The story. Your story? So I didn't think twice when he presented me with my cup. Which one is yours, though? Oh well. It was a ceremony for us.
History with Noble. As a VP of Android Futures, you're David's superior, aren't you? I need a drink of water. 1 sec here. Yapping is thirsty work. Water. Now I have to drink it again?
Now I'm drowning.
Didn't you join the company at around the same time?
David was always more interested in his work than he was in climbing the ladder. He didn't like playing the corporate politics game.
So he was unpopular around here? You're an axolotl. You won't drown. Wait, you're right. How did you know?
Not unpopular, no.
Not the great Dr. David Asher.
Misunderstood, perhaps?
How so?
He could be blunt, demanding, some might say. He wasn't trying to be, it's just not everyone could work at the same pace as he did for as long as he did.
Even with the whole company huffing those inhalers, they couldn't keep pace with David? Speaking of which, I don't see any at Young's desk. Maybe it's just not something we leave out in the open at her level. So, you would say that his work-life balance was... Balance implies the two are at odds with one another. We use work-life harmony here at the company. Fascinating. So was he in a harmony? No, David always had plenty of suitors, but he was never willing to put the time in. But I'm sure you're more knowledgeable than I am on that subject. Right. What do you mean? I had to help him draft a lot of apology notes over the years for misunderstandings and double bookings. Scandalous. Animate 16. The A16 entered production this year, correct? Correct. Pre-orders started last holiday and we began shipping in the first quarter. I understand that you were instrumental in the success of Warm Androids. I played my part supervising the launch, yes. Weren't you the one who designed Cinetonin, the factor that enabled communication between synthetic and organic parts? Oh, she looks surprised by this. I'm surprised by this. I did lead that project, yes, but that was years ago. At the time, Cinetonin was little more than a novelty, a dead end. It wasn't until David took the reins on the A16 that we found a use for it. Took the reins? He was lead programmer on limb coordination, facial expression, exhaustion parameters, and he designed the synthetic nerves that made all of that possible. David did all of that. That's a lot more than just programming. Was he always so gifted in that many fields? Did he fill those roles on the A14 or A15? No. He used to stick steadfast to his role as a software architect. That was his field of expertise, and he didn't wander far. But 2 or 3 years back, he started sitting in on other departments, taking notes. That definitely sounds like he was, prepping for producing Sarah in secret. Soon, he was joining the discussion, proposing new ideas. And eventually, they came to follow his lead. Just like that? Just like that. So he just applied himself, and soon he was leading other departments? That's the kind of genius that Dr. David Asher was. Maybe they weren't paying him enough. The company profited the most, of course, but the entire industry benefited from his vision and leadership. His loss will be felt for years. Sierra? 1 second. One tiny little second. One tiny little second. There we go. I had forgotten to update the stream category, which I probably should have done an hour ago. Oopsie. So this android, Sarah. Even Dawes couldn't find any real details on where it came from. It's not in any of our systems? I'm afraid not. Did David ever talk to you or anyone else at the company about a pet project? Pet? No, he never gave me any indication like that. And if he didn't talk to me about it, I seriously doubt he confided in anyone else at the company. David didn't trust anyone higher on the chain than himself, and anyone below him... Frankly, they couldn't possibly hope to give him advice. He never mentioned me? Can I suggest an Emotella ad? Absolutely, Kezlal. Always. No, never. Androids don't come cheap. You never heard about him requisitioning parts or resources? There were never any discrepancies with his company credit card? The company's accountants are mirthless, even by industry standards. They wouldn't humor anybody, not even David Asher. If they had ever detected financial discrepancies, there would have been an uproar loud enough you could hear it in the mailroom. You have a mailroom? Let me see what this emote is. Axospeen! Yeah, we can add that. Whee! It's unlisted, so it's not going to show up on the on-stream chat yet. But once it is processed and listed, it'll work. It'll work great. But that is very good. I like it. Not since the 30s. It's just a figure of speech. He couldn't have taken resources from the company without leaving a record. but no one would deny Dr. David Asher information. That's okay at Kazletto. It takes them like a day to process that stuff sometimes. Sometimes it's very quick, but in my experience, usually about a day. So you'll see it on Tuesday's stream. Yay! He would have been able to obtain all the necessary data to build his own android. Then, with enough time and money, he could privately purchase the raw materials himself. I don't understand it. It must have taken him years to build Sarah. He wasn't doing anything illegal. Except the hacking stuff. So why keep it secret? I don't know. But he was private, and a perfectionist. Perhaps he simply wasn't proud of his results? Could be. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I'm sure this has been a difficult day for you. We now have witness testimony in here? I should take a quick flip through. Okay, arrived at 7:30, on camera until 8:03. Retrieve liquor at 7:36. Upon returning at 7:40, they drank out of the cups. Felt lethargic, disoriented shortly after 8. Lost consciousness at 8:03. EMS were called at 8:04. And then 8:08. Okay, yeah, the time all lines up so far. Okay, and then other evidence has been updated to reflect that we know it's Helen Young now. That was blanked out on the thing. Sarah's valuation. Oh, we didn't see this. Evaluation of the Android Sarah's financial value by an insurance algorithm value algorithm value. Takes into account the fact that Sarah is the only known android made by David Asher, the last known piece of tech you work on, and the fact that he is now deceased and cannot create any more, the fact that she is one of a kind, the value of her components, and the potential profits reaped from the experimental technology contained within her totals to a very large sum. See, I don't understand how this menu works sometimes. Poison, CCE, leadership workshops, blah 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 blah. Chromofuge. Pigments from Android blood. Sorry, maybe I'm thinking ahead of the game here or something, but okay. This removes byproducts, impurities, and pigments from the android blood, right? But also, we know that warm android blood works in people, right? Would it then be theoretically possible to, like, replace a human's blood entirely with the pink android blood? And then have them pretend to be a warm android functionally? So if they got injured, they'd bleed pink and people wouldn't realize they're human? This doesn't really have anything to do with the case currently, but I feel like I'm connecting some dots here that maybe will come up later. I'm sure this has been a difficult day for you. A difficult day for all of us. A message from Fran? I'm running out of leads to chase. That brat better have good news. Are you really going to take this to court? That's my plan. The circumstances may be irregular, but I'm still defending a client from a criminal charge. It's my responsibility to argue that he is not guilty of what he's been accused of. And is that what you believe? That he didn't commit suicide? I guess I haven't decided what I believe. July 1st, 2086. In transit. Trans? Like my gender. Would you kindly slow the hell down? I'm sorry, Adonai. Was I walking too quickly for you? That wasn't walking. That was speed walking. Up 2 flights of stairs. It's very different. Speed walking? Sounds like a powerful technique. Is it like the Zen Zhao? Just let me catch my breath for a minute. Adonai, is it possible that you are out of shape? No, but since we left the cab, your heart rate has... I'm not wearing the right clothes. Or the right shoes. Is that so? Yes. Also, I didn't stretch or hydrate. The sun's reaching its zenith. That would have been several hours ago. Do you mean the air temp? You said it would be a short walk from street level, so I prepared myself mentally for a short walk. Then you took off like a rocket, and you didn't mention we'd have to go upstairs. Are you sure this place is even back here? The reviews online were quite clear. It's worth the trouble finding it. Maybe if you're a mountain climber. When I sent Fran hunting for a musician in David's circles, I expected them to bring me someone from the city orchestra or jazz club. The champagne flute and teacup kind of musician. That was maybe the weirdest line read I've ever accidentally done. But this is the tequila and neon part of town. Ooh. It should be in view if we turn. Adonai, be careful. Of what? It's a stray, and it's bearing its fangs, too. It could be carrying diseases. You should relax. Adonai, it's growling. It's not growling at me. See? So it's just me that it doesn't like. Too much static. How'd you get it to calm down? This can't be the actual height difference of them right here. This cannot be their height difference. This has to be perspective, right? Right? It's an animal, not a monster. It wants to be calm. Do you like animals? What kind of cold-blooded freak doesn't like animals? Do you have a pet? No, never have. Why not? Because I don't want to take care of a pet. That seems counterintuitive to me. Well, it makes perfect sense to me, and I don't need it to make sense to you. But you notice you're only this talkative when it's just the two of us? Just an observation. You shy or something? Did David program you to have android anxiety? It's generally only appropriate to respond to comments that are addressed to oneself. Today, I have rarely been addressed directly by people other than you. In other words, you're shy. That is not what I... Can I try petting it? There's no law against it. Pet the dog! Android pet the dog, 4:26 p.m., July 1st, 2086. Ultraviolets. This is the establishment. Now to see if Isaac Porter is as habitual as Fran claims. Do you think Father was close with this man? This man who you've never met? I think he was close with him, yeah. At some point. I had some help making that deduction. Fran saw that their metadata showed a significant cooling of interaction between the two of them, particularly over the past month. But Fran also saw a phone call between the two last night. So they were close. Do you think they were sleeping together? That is completely inappropriate for me, or anyone, to speculate about. Inappropriate? Adonai, it's only... I'm getting a very important text message from my private investigator. Excuse me!
Did you catch the killer yet?
No.
What the hell? I sent you his pose.
I'm at his position. I haven't spoken to Porter yet. Anyway, there's no reason to suspect him right now.
Lame.
Surprised you're invested all of a sudden? Isn't David Asher a corporate sellout in your eyes?
Everyone's a corporate sellout. But Asher gets respect.
If I'm a demolitions expert.
He's like a really good architect.
That's almost sweet, I think.
Asher started out working in Cube. So in the architect analogy, by today's standards, he's like, I don't know. As a kid, he built all his bricks by hand. Or something.
You know that lit homework can help you with forming analogies.
Eat this analogy. Did that come through or did the characters break?
I'm cold.
Get blanket.
It's supposed to be a guy giving you the finger.
Wait, Aga finger? Take it Cube is a programming language? What's special about it?
Pretty much anything coded in the last 20 years is web-based. You code with the assumption that you'll always be connected. So you can depend on having fat libraries of references to lean on.
I don't know why I read it like that.
And if something does go wrong, your errors get reported to you automatically.
But not Cube?
You can look it up. But basically, Cube was originally for robotics and, like, machinery. Stuff that had to operate in the mines, under the ocean, with middle of nowhere fields with zero signal service. So Cube had to be self-sufficient.
How rugged.
Where did Asher learn Cube anyway? It's older than dirt. From like the 40s.
I don't know. I think his father had a machine shop or something.
Vague.
Yeah, well, David didn't like to talk about his family. And I never asked.
What did your private investigator have to say, Adonai?
Not telling. Well, let's look around. Inspect. Stage for the talent, pretty close to the floor. That's with the whole round table aspect of this place. Everyone's more or less on equal footing, dancing in the dark, once you get past the bouncer.
Do you think they might have met here?
David and Porter? I can't see David walking in here.
Because you found the walk so challenging?
Because it's too loud to relax, and not dark enough to be anonymous.
I see.
What's that face? You got an opinion to share?
The atmosphere's not bad in here, but the music isn't quite...
I'll find you a survey to fill out before we leave. What kind of music does an android even like?
Early 21st century punk rock.
Is that just you, or does that go for all androids?
I haven't met all androids. I can't speak for them.
Wonder what they'd say.
If they're smart, they'd say that music peaked with early 21st century punk rock.
Debate settled.
What a nerd! She's into that old shit.
That one over there, he matches the photo Fran sent. Should I approach now or look around some more? Let's look around. Bar stocked full of colorful selections and busy bartenders. This isn't the kind of club you can order food in. Only time bar food is any good is when you're drunk enough to forget the taste and the gap between chewing and swallowing. So you can, like, eat things?
Yes, I can.
What, like android food?
There is no such product.
So what do androids eat?
Online user guides for Noble's War models clarify that they don't eat anything in the traditional sense. They get their energy from electrical charging, usually wireless. Whenever they need to eat, it's to replenish specific vitamins and electrolytes.
Sounds a lot like what mod users go through with their sports drinks and energy bars. And charger separation anxiety. Oh man, I'd have charger separation anxiety.
According to the net, warm androids can ingest nutrient-rich processed carbohydrate pellets if they need to forego electrical charging long-term.
Processed pellets? You mean like kibble? Like dog food?
No, it is not like dog food at all.
Can you buy it from the pet store?
It seems that you can.
How is this something you have to look up anyway?
Because I've always just eaten whatever father gave me.
What does that mean, Octo? It means that you buy androids dog food.
Marbled beef. Never hydroponic avocados.
Never hydroponic? What? Sourcing food exclusively from farms utilizing natural sunlight. Obvious for the movement isn't. Claims about superior taste and nutritional value of the labels yet. Oh, right. Okay, because this is the future version of people who don't eat GMOs. I think is what this is, because at this point in time, GMOs are just you can't avoid them. It's a thing, right? So now they're like, well, you know, I only eat the food that's been grown on a farm, you know, instead of them fancy hydroponics. They use real sunlight. Are you missing your charger part? Arrgh! Yeah, I mean, then it's like if I needed to, like, if I had like a robot arm and I was like out in the woods for a while, I'd start getting anxious about my arm running out of charge. That's what I mean. That's charger separation anxiety, right? That's got to be what it is. I am not paying for any of that. A thing to read. Club reading material. Exclusive sit down with luxury. You've heard her name on everyone's lips, you've seen her face in magazines and commercials, and then double check to make sure the photos weren't labeled as edited. Now get all your burning questions about her answered here in our exclusive interview with the mysterious young woman who's being called, in perhaps the only truly unanimous vote that's the net's ever seen, the most beautiful woman in the world. Why the name?
People think it's an ego thing, but it was just a random username I picked up back when I was grassroots. Then it was a pseudonym to give me a little shade from all the attention. Now it's a brand, and I can't change it without setting the stock market into a spin, so...
You're certainly influential. After partnering with you, Inti saw a 3,000% increase in share price.
Yay! I'm happy for them, course. But to be honest, it's a pain at times like this.
She gestures towards her clothes, a plain white t-shirt and gym shorts with no branding visible. On anyone else, it might seem sloppy or even unflattering. On her, it only makes her natural beauty stand out that much more.
So you, Octo? Me? Sage, I think Haslotl saying I'm pretty? Sage has no opinion on this. I must be wrong.
Who are you wearing, by the way?
I can't wear anyone unless I'm attending something. If I don't dress like this, all my sponsors fall into bidding wars every time I leave the house.
Does it stress you, all that attention?
Accelerating.
Try accelerating. My skin is flawless.
Can't argue with that. So do you have a skincare routine? Any tips you'd like to share?
Be a little bratty. Act a little spoiled. Keeps you young. Now that's me.
And how old are you exactly? Everyone's dying to know.
18 to 29, now and forever.
And you know she just did that with like a wink. A wink. Hey, it worked. I can wink.
Oh, log in below so you can read the rest.
Okay, well. Might do her more good than that face in the end. Maybe. That's one hell of a face. She's got a mind for business. In the meantime, she's powerless. Trapped between a rock and a hard place. If she steps out of line, her sponsors will bleed each other dry in bidding wars for her wardrobe's limited real estate. It's no skin off her back. She's already got more money than she could ever spend. But corporations can't afford not to keep growing, so they never reach a point where they can afford to lose. If she's smart enough to take advantage of that, good for her. Okay, yeah, that's him all right. Damn, that's a good outfit. Hello, sir. Looks like he's killing time before his sets tonight.
Are you unsure how to proceed, Adonai?
I'm sure that you need to hang back. As for me, well, for him, I could play it straight. Isaac Porter?
What's up?
My name's Morgan. I was David's friend. Right now I'm straight. I'm his lawyer. Can we talk?
Depends. Were you a friend from work?
No.
Over here.
Thanks, Isaac. I feel like both answers could apply. They might both have been true, but she had a lot of power, but she was powerless, right? Like she was locked in. Like it was clear, like she couldn't change her name without the stock market freaking out. Like, anything she did is, ugh. Anyway, thanks, Isaac.
Don't thank me yet. I might sit here, shut my mouth, and stick you with the tab. So what kind of lawyer are you? What kind of friend?
I'm his defense attorney.
Think you missed the bus on that then, yeah?
And I'm a friend that needs to know what happened yesterday.
Doesn't everyone? Try somewhere else, friendly lawyer. I haven't seen him in weeks.
You might not have seen him, but we both know you spoke with him over the phone yesterday. Only a short time before he died.
How the hell?
Isaac, it's pretty obvious you don't want this particular spotlight to linger on you any longer than necessary, so why don't we cut to the chase?
No lies, no playing coy. Fine.
Sarah. Yes, Adonai?
The hell? Is that thing transmitting?
I'm not streaming any data, no. Porter doesn't seem to recognize Sarah either. One more person David was keeping secrets from. I need to record everything for the court.
Fine.
You two were together, is that correct?
We were together. I ended it.
Oh, so they were banging.
Yesterday.
Huh? No, dude. Oh, they just broke up and then he died. That fucks you up for life, man. That kind of stuff fucks you up for life. They were both really hot, though. That's a good couple. Care to elaborate?
On our entire relationship?
Look, you can tell me everything once and I can get it on the record. Or you can hear the same questions over and over again from 1,000 different cops and Megs for the next 3 months.
We met in a bar. I had seen him come in a few times, each time with someone else. Each time talking with his mouth, but not looking with his eyes. It ticked me off. Scribbling on napkins, letting his single gin and tonic sweat onto the table for 2 hours. His dates would all go to the bathroom or take a call and slip out the back. One of them didn't make it 10 minutes. And he'd still sit there the rest of the night, unfazed. Couldn't tell if he was oblivious or stupid or shameless or the most confident man in the world. And he ticked me off. One night, things were slow, my set had been canceled. His date hadn't even bothered to think of an excuse before bailing, so I asked him why he insisted on coming there night after night. Just to ignore vapid people he wasn't interested in at a shitty bar with drinks he didn't like. And he just said, because I like your music. Man, did that tick me off. It was cute early on. Him being so passionate about work I could barely pretend to understand. And I liked that we gave each other space, you know. Felt like we were being mature or whatever.
Until?
There was no until. No one day where everything turned sour. But at some point, I started to understand where his priorities were, and how I ranked in them. Like I said, he was passionate about his work. I just wrongly assumed he would be that passionate about me at some point. So I pulled away a little. Wanted to see if he'd notice, if he'd miss me. Testing him like that isn't the biggest red flag in the world. Oh, sorry, testing him like that isn't the biggest red flag in the world. That's what he was admitting. That's a red flag. Okay. Sorry. Read it wrong. He never budged. I could ignore him for days and he wouldn't be the least bit ashamed to see me. If I picked a fight, he'd never get angry or upset. He'd just apologize. He didn't want to fight with me. Because he was never invested enough to bother. It was my mistake. I watched him sit there all those nights not giving a shit when people walked away, and still I had this stupid idea that somehow, for whatever reason, I'd be different. That I would be special. But I wasn't. So I ended it.
Last night.
I called him. Didn't expect he'd pick up. I had everything prepared to leave a message with an assistant or ad or whatever. But he answered. First ring. Without hesitation, shame, or awkwardness. That ticked me off. So I told him exactly how valued he had made me feel the past few months. I told him exactly how insignificant I felt as the boyfriend of the illustrious David Asher.
And what'd he say?
He apologized. And then he asked me if that was all I called to tell him. Woof! I hung up after that. Spent the rest of the night wrapped in warm disdain for him and his coldness. He had made that easy for me. I went to sleep hurt but clean, ready for something new. And then this morning I wake up to see that my ex killed himself not 2 hours after he let me walk out of his life without so much as a don't. What the hell, man? What the hell, David? And now you're just the tip of an iceberg of lawyers and reporters and buzzards. Parasites who want to hear about the man who sent David Asher over the edge. I never wanted to be his last lifeline or the straw that broke his back. I just wanted to be his goddamn boyfriend. Turns out that was asking for too much.
It's yet to be determined whether David committed suicide.
You serious?
You don't have all the facts.
And you do? Any one of them point to anything else? Thought so.
Thanks for your time. I'll let you get back to it.
That's it? No summons?
The court has no need for you to retell a sad story like that.
The court, huh?
Sorry to bother you at work. Sarah, let's go. Your discography is very impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
And your range is remarkable. So it pained me to see that all your works in the last quarter have been so melancholy. I think...
Well, what the hell would you know about any of that? What's the matter? Can't find the words? Need to steal them from somewhere first, butcher them before shitting them back out?
I was not trained on any data sets that...
Now, pardon me. My mistake, really. Not your fault you're only standing here because rich prick nerds were allowed to rob the world blind for most of the century.
Sarah, we're leaving. What the hell was that about? He was under the false impression that I was programmed using a massive automated learning model. An early 21st century... Not that. Why'd you talk to him? Yeah, I guess Sarah's not ChatGPT, y'all. No, Sarah, my baby. Yeah, she's sad because he thought she was ChatGPT. Grok, play sad music. Alexa, start playing sad robot playlist. I just felt that I should say something to him. A word of advice. People don't want comfort from strangers, especially when they're androids. They want it from the people they want it from. Coming from anywhere else, it's just corn syrup on a parched tongue. Doesn't matter how sweet it is, they'll just start gagging. You know a lot about people, don't you, Adonai? I wonder if she specifically said corn syrup because there's no more honey. Because the bees, they're gone in the future now, the bees. Compared to you, I'm a goddamn savant. Come on, there's not much time left. Is there still somewhere you want to investigate? Somewhere I need to return to, actually. Porter was right. As things stand, I don't have any evidence that could establish an alternative interpretation of the facts. But if there did exist hard evidence that could prove his death wasn't a suicide, there's only one place I could find it at this point. "5:16 p.m. Noble Employee Housing Building, Platya. We're back to Platya. And there's an NB in the chat. Non-binary. Penthouse basement. The basement. So far, sorry, I think I bumped the mic there. Let me move that a little. So far, the biggest thing that I have... Ooh, sorry, another burp. The biggest thing that I have to work from is that Young clearly was there, but her story contradicts one key thing. She says David drank the entire cup, but we see that it was spilled, so it must not have been completely empty. Which either means someone planted a spill afterwards, or that he didn't drink it all. But I suppose, no, if you see someone not drink a whole cup, you'd know they haven't drank the whole cup. That's a pretty easy thing to be able to tell. They couldn't have refilled? That wouldn't line up with the timeline, right? Like, no, not this. Where was the thing? Witness testimony, right? 7:30. They were on camera until 8:03. They spoke. David went to get liquor at 7:36, came back at 7:40. Then he started showing symptoms of the poisoning at 8. There wouldn't have been any time for him from between 8 p.m. to 8:04 when the EMS were called for him to refill the drink. But that does leave a number of minutes where Young is there before the VTOL shows up. But they're on camera the whole time. I don't know. Something's off. Yeah, the whole scene's on camera. Yeah. But something doesn't line up. Something is not lining up. It's specifically around that cup. That's key right now. I haven't found any other contradictions yet, but that seems key. We might find some more indication here.
The basement. You sure you don't want another look at the crime scene?
I'm all out of time. Gotta approach this from another angle.
The other angle?
You know, inductive versus deductive. Flip the chessboard and all that. Haven't you ever read a mystery novel?
I've seen mystery films.
Well, let's see if you paid any attention then.
I liked Glass Onion.
What killed David Asher?
Poison.
10 points.
There's a point system?
Now, how did that poison get into his bloodstream?
He must have ingested it orally.
And how do we know that? The plastic cup in a rich person's house? Yeah, but we've got a pretty solid explanation for why they were using plastic cups. It was a nostalgia thing. It was a callback to their college victory when they were broke. You know. And it sounds like that was a thing that they routinely did, and I don't doubt that. But it also means that those cups are disposable. It's possible one of them could have gotten swapped or something at some point. I don't know. And if he had inhaled it?
Inhaled it? Why?
Leave the whys to someone who actually understands them.
I won't be able to understand anything if I don't practice.
Practice by answering my question.
I suppose it's possible, but highly unlikely. We would have found a delivery system for it in the building, like an inhaler.
Right. An airborne poison is either shoved in your face or sprayed over a wide area, and no one around David has shown any kind of symptoms. So all we're left is oral intake.
Eliminating the impossible. What's next, Adonai?
Young's corroborated statement was that David didn't exhibit any irregular symptoms or behavior until he started drinking that night, and the police didn't find anything unusual in any of the food or drink in his home.
Except for his cup, the results were inconclusive.
Young was drinking from the same bottle in the same type of cup, but didn't get sick. We have to conclude then that David's cup alone was poisoned.
That all seems logical and consistent with the police's theory of suicide. So why are we down here?
Minus 10 points.
Back to 0!
David left the parlor and then came back with the whiskey in 2 cups. Young told us as much, and apparently the cameras upstairs support her theory.
So we have to conclude then that he got them both from this bar?
Better. 5 points. Did he also get the poison from the cabinet?
The police have been in here since we left. According to their ARCS file, they didn't find anything that matches the poison down here.
So the poison somehow went straight into his drinking cup then. I need to flip this around again.
But if you turn something 360 degrees, you're just back to...
Yeah, you have to turn 360 degrees and walk away. That's why they call it the Xbox 360. If I were the prosecution, what would I want more than anything? Proof that David knowingly added the poison himself.
He wouldn't do that.
And you can make that claim because there's no video evidence to contradict you. How long was David off camera?
From 7:36 p.m. to 7:40 p.m. when he left the parlor to get liquor from this bar.
That's the gap we have to solve. What happened while he was off screen? Water, you're right. My throat is getting a little itchy. So if we had David on camera for those 4 minutes, and he didn't poison himself in that time,
he would have a perfect alibi for the crime,
proving his innocence.
But Adonai, we don't have footage of that. There are no security cameras down here.
I think there are.
What do you mean?
This whole building is coded head to toe in Penumbra security systems, courtesy of Noble. Every console, every corner, every Android on every floor, it's all plugged into Penumbra. Except that panel is manufactured by Cotter Security Systems. Why would David put a console for a different security system in exactly one corner of his penthouse? I've never given it much thought. Well, it's been bothering me all day, but my curiosity alone can't scale a 64-digit wall. You mean signal hijacking or whatever you want to call it? Have you tried it before? It is illegal and unnecessary. Father would not have installed hidden cameras in his own home. I bet he would have. That seems like something he would do. At the end of the day, I can't make you do anything. Well, actually, I probably can now that you're registered to me. But aren't you the one who wanted to prove his innocence? Oh, eliminate the impossible. I will need your express verbal command. Not like David can press charges against us at this point. Do it. Did you really need me to say that? For the purposes of record keeping, yes. I've gotten past the 64-digit code, and I have found cameras. There are a number of them embedded in the room's walls and ceilings. Are they edible? Cameras? Maybe. Haven't tried. As you theorized, they are on a separate network from the rest of the building. Where are they feeding to, if not the penumbra system? Behind my hibernation unit. A false wall in the back of a safe. I don't understand. Why would Father possibly have a hidden system of cameras inside his own home? Beats me. He was brilliant and more than a little odd. Throw in a little money and odd becomes eccentric. And then throw in fame and eccentric becomes paranoid. I don't. What the hell was he thinking? What was he afraid of? Why didn't he come to me for... Time's short. Gather facts now, leave the computation for later. Okay. What's the story with this anyway? Some kind of fault in the foundation? I don't know. I've never noticed that crack before. I want to get those eyes checked. There's nothing wrong with my vision. This crack must have been created during my most recent downtime. Or hibernation, sorry. The chips are blocking it. I assumed it said downtime. How? Did David drop a weight a bunch of times over and over in the same spot? Yeah, this is a big question mark. And especially if this happened very recently. What did David even do with all this equipment? Dry his laundry? What makes you so sure he wasn't exercising? Did you ever see him use any of this crap? No, but he must have used the weights when I wasn't looking, since he promised me that he'd take better care of his health. Sarah, these weights are all maxed out. David couldn't have put up numbers like these even if he was piloting a frame. Don't be so sure, Adonai. Pardon? The following is a true story based on primary sources who were present for the event and its aftermath. Copenhagen, 1981, 8:10 a.m. local time. A towering man with the musculature of a world-class professional rugby player enters the Global Donkey Bank on Fredericksburg Lane. He explains to the bank teller that he has a bomb in his suitcase and that he wants his gym bag filled with unmarked bills. A security guard approaches him from behind with a nightstick and swings, but the man simply catches the weapon and bends it into a twisted knot with his massive, dinner plate-sized hands. When asked to describe the suspect to the police afterwards, the teller had only this to say: that man was all muscle. The rest of the bank heist proceeds without incident, and the man exits the building just as police arrive on the scene, when suddenly, his suitcase explodes! But it's just a smokescreen. Local officers quickly recognize the ploy and rush towards the door, grabbing each of the hostages as they flee while desperately searching for the perpetrator. What they find instead is a diminutive, frail, sheepish young man, barely 160 centimeters tall, holding a gym bag full of money with no recollection of how he got there. The Hulk of robbing banks? Renowned psychologist and trained hypnotist Dr. Werner Kurtzer wrote the following in his diagnosis: acute dissociative identity disorder. That's right, the man had a split personality, and so great was the disparity between his two halves that when they switched control, he physically changed, becoming taller, bulkier, and capable of previously unthinkable feats of strength. So be careful what you say a man like Father can't do, just because of how he looks on the outside. That sounds fake as hell, girl. Every single word you just said was false. No, the Hulk is real and he robs banks and he's my friend. Huh? Don't believe everything you read on the net. Oh. I believe her. I don't. But I'm glad you do. Insane story. Let's peruse the liquor cabinet this mystery hinges on. The police have been through it all by now, and they didn't find foreign contents in any of the spirits. No poison to be found here. Well, not that kind of poison anyway. In which case, can I make you anything? Well, if you're offering, I'll have... Sorry, you're way underage, aren't you? 2 years old or whatever? Technically. Took that one a lot worse than I expected. Cheer up! Maybe you'll find a mocktail if you climb to the top of the ladder. This is a rolling ladder. A kind of step ladder. Not a ladder.
Wait! They said the thing! Ace Attorney fans are pogging!
What? Remember, a ladder extends, but a stepladder folds out. And it's important to know the distinction. I'd bet my life savings that this subject will never come up again, ever. I gotta play the Ace Attorney games on stream sometime. I love that series. It's due a replay. I'm gonna do a replay of it. We must not have found everything because this is not kicking me out. So what am I meant? Oh, take in. So is that the original? Ace Attorney Thursday! Actually, that's not a bad idea. It was appraised and confirmed to be genuine. At least he didn't get ripped off. I'm a Philistine when it comes to this kind of stuff. What does an android see? I see a meeting. Or perhaps an encounter? Two apex forces of nature, two kings of the forest, the stag and the tiger. I think. Great, I'm officially less cultured than the robot. Alright, let's refocus here. So there's some kind of hidden door beneath your bunk bed, huh? Essentially, though a bunk bed would imply a second or third. How do we open it? One moment. I see. Got it open already? I cannot open this door. Why? It is a Tethys Basics Sturdicure. That anti-hack feature in the name is real? It's a closed system, Adonai. The hell am I supposed to do now? Strange. There was an if-then toggle enabled in the security parameters. I don't follow. When Father last adjusted the settings here, he made it so the door would never open so long as I was hibernating. And he made it so I was the only one who could wake her up. Meaning this is a door only I can open? It'll be a 6-character password. Some combination of numbers or letters. Did you and Father have any influential moments in your life that revolved around a 6-letter word? Nothing comes to mind. Is there a code word he knew only I could learn? I think there is. I think it's Adonai. What was the password, Adonai? You'd never guess. 67! Oh, that's right. That's the password. I mean, what's something that only the two of them would know? It's clearly the thing that the android keeps calling her. Carbinator, thanks for the follow. Did feel a bit out of character, David utilizing so much cloak and dagger tech. What if we have a Sonic game and the boss fight's a Supersonic? I have a Beam Clash minigame. Oh, Goku fight. What if Sonic fight Goku and Super Saiyan? Kaboom! I don't know, that'd be cool. I could see something like that if they keep going the Frontiers kind of route for bosses. And I've definitely been struggling with the idea of him doing home improvement. But one step in here and it all makes sense. It's a panic room. Scary! Panic room is a place for rich people to hide when people start bouncing bricks off their windows. They're typically not even on the blueprints. So when Noble built this penthouse for one of their executives, someone slipped this into the mix. And it's remained in Noble's blind spot ever since. All David had to do was repurpose it. Make sure you're capturing all of this. I don't want to miss my one chance because of a discovery technicality. I understand, but you needn't specify. My memory is flawless. I can play back visuals, sounds, sensations. I can even give detailed reports on air particulates. You mean you can smell? Better than any human, and some canines. So does it smell stale in here to you? Stale? It doesn't to me. Almost like someone's been in here recently. Almost like someone visits here frequently. Alright, let's try booting up the computer.
You don't think the console is password protected?
2 physical doors, a 64-digit code, a half-ton Android, and a secret phrase? If David set a password on his PC after all that, I'm going back to the morgue to have a word with him. Good, it's already signed in. Ooh, wait, hold on, wait. I like when they use filters on the art, it looks so cool.
You're looking for camera footage?
I'd also settle for a note plainly stating that he feared for his life. Water, you're right. Let me drink water. Almost 3 hours of yapping will really do a number on your throat. What am I doing? Here, you search for video files. They'll probably be timestamped and formatted for short-range devices.
I have the subfolder. The cameras stream live data constantly, but the files are clipped at fairly regular intervals.
Thanks for the bongo pats, yes! Once every week, it seems.
The most recent video file here has footage going back 8 days. It was accessed yesterday, around 4 p.m.
Wait, Casuladdle.emote. Oh my god, safe room, cameras, androids, people dying? Wait a minute, wait. Five Knife Frebby!
You were asleep then, so the only person who could get in here at that time is David himself. Alright, let's see it then.
Of course. It's just that I am having difficulty.
Try double-clicking?
I have been trying to open the files from the moment I discovered them, hadn't I? But they are encrypted.
Damn it, David. You leave me enough clues to get this far, but you won't let me use your computer? What's the brand on the encryption program?
If I rush a subpoena,
they might have a backdoor I could bluff them into.
These files were not encrypted with any commercially available tool. This appears to be Father's own work.
Shit. If David Asher hand-wrote the encryption on these files, there's no one alive who could... Hey, was Dawes just flattering you back there? Or is your processing power really that special?
And I...
Can you break his encryption, yes or no?
With enough time.
And how much time would that be?
I would estimate it at 2 to 6 hours.
It's a 4-hour window.
No matter how sophisticated, encryption is still just a code that must be deciphered. And when deciphering any code, progress proceeds exponentially, which makes it particularly difficult to determine the amount of time required to complete the process.
Of the Devil is gonna be FNAF 11. Morgan's gonna show up in the next Five Nights Freddy's movie. And she's gonna kill Freddy. And then she's gonna get away with it.
2 to 6 hours. I don't have any better options. Get started.
I started 4 minutes and 23 seconds ago.
Finally showing some initiative. But you've been talking to me this whole time.
I have the ability to analyze data in parallel by utilizing subconscious processes, so long as the work required is rote.
So you're doing it in the back of your head?
Actually, I'm speaking to you in the back of my head.
Oh, conversations are the boring, easy thing.
I could give the decryption process my full undivided attention, but I would become non-responsive.
Hey, that's a pretty nifty feature. I'll have to keep that in mind. I love Sarah so much. She's so good. She's great. Very, very good Android character. I love an Android character. I mean, I have an OC who's like if Sarah was just a lot grumpier, pretty much. All right, can you take this show on the road, or do we have to rip this computer out of the wall and find a battery?
I have copied the encrypted files and will work on them as we travel. We can leave whenever you're ready.
Still can't believe David let me get this far just to shut the door in my face at the last second. But he did let me get this far. And the computer's not the only thing in here. The cabinets are a lot less eye-catching than his computer, but knowing David, that's all the more reason to check. Lots of paperwork, bonds and holdings. A platinum bar? His birth certificate might be nearly as valuable. Can't imagine what people would pay to steal David Asher's identity. And down here at the bottom, a binder. Wait, which kind of binder? Noble's logo on the front, and in the middle, enough pages to dwarf one of those phone books you see in period bases. Oh, that kind of binder. All right, yeah. Okay. They're masking it in legalese, even on the table of contents, but basically, this is his employment contract. I want to take a look at this. Details compensation, grounds for dismissal, definitions for what constitutes a breach of contract, and how arbitrations would be handled. Not a light read. Okay, well, I guess I am not reading it lightly then. Hold on to this for me.
It must be very important if you're giving it to me.
It's certainly very heavy.
Was there anything else in there?
Expecting an updated copy of his will to show up?
It is a possibility, isn't it?
Maybe in a corny old murder mystery.
A widely beloved and respected genre with over 2 centuries of...
There is something else. Your papers. That Evangeline Morgan be given immediate and complete ownership of the android designated Sarah. It's dated to a few weeks back. Had he already made up his mind about all of this? If he had, why'd he hide this where no one else could find it? Was I just a backup plan? Well, at least we've got something a bit more concrete in Starling's word now.
Her word should be plenty, shouldn't it?
Not if people realize how precious you are. As a collector's item.
Oh.
We've yet to meet one person who knows what the hell you are, but Noble could have easily argued that you follow under private technology or physical holdings. Unless I had something like this.
It's good that you do, then. I'm glad that father wanted me to go with a friend of his.
Sarah was blushing and everything. She was so precious. This'll get me a huge tax write-off when I donate you to a for-profit college.
You could at least pick a charitable institution.
That's just an old saying. All colleges have been for-profit since the 60s.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
You can cheer up in the car. Hail us a ride to the courthouse. Priority.
There is an upcharge at this hour for priority transportation.
That's irritating. But I'd like to have more than just a few minutes to prepare once we get there.
The upcharge is a multiplier of 5.7.
I'll prepare on the way over.
Very good, Adonai.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep playing, but for the VOD watchers, I'm splitting this into 2 videos because this has already been going for a bit. So, VOD watchers, check out the next video. It'll be up soon. Bye, VOD watchers. Goodbye. Bye-bye. I love you.